And a good Saturday morning to you. Welcome to Health Matters with Dr. Jim Warner of Warner Chiropractic, 4855 East State Street in Rockford in the Manhattan Plaza. And as if last week wasn't enough, we're back for more stress today, Dr. Jim.
Hey, yes, we are. We're going to talk about stress, and we are going to lower the stress level of the entire listening audience.
All right.
How's that? Isn't that something I feel better already just saying that.
Everybody gets unstressed.
Unstressed. Like one woman told me one time that the source of my stress is my husband. Is there a way I can get rid of him, and then my stress will go away?
And what was your answer?
And I said, there is, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
That reminds me of the lady who said to the pastor, your sermon today was just like water to a drowning person. So evidently there was a little stress there. Absolutely.
Well, Fred, last week we talked about stress. We talked about mental stress. And people think of that's your emotions, your relationships to, your spouse, your family members, your neighbors, financial stress. We talked about physical stress, poor posture, exercise or lack of exercise, not getting enough sleep. We talked about chemical stresses a little bit, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, sugar. Those are all different forms of stress. And then we said something that people probably don't think about, that all disease is from stress. In other words, whatever the disease is, you might catch a cold. Well, that's because there's certain forms of stress. There's a certain virus maybe that got into your body that started causing stress. Cancer, heart disease is from different stress factors that affect you. It might be in your environment, might be something that you can't really control, but you have to kind of cope with it sometimes.
You also said that not all stress is bad. Some forms of exercise bring some stress but build you up.
Absolutely. So sometimes the stress actually turns out to be something good and not always bad. But most of the time when we think about stress, we're thinking about the ill effects of stress.
Right.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about physical stress, but also chemical stress and how it affects your body. Now, chemical stresses can be, you can check that with a blood test maybe. You can test certain elements in your blood, chemicals and stuff. Blood sugar would be one form that you could say, too high or too low blood sugar is a stress factor. But one of the things that we stress in our office is the health of the adrenal gland. And the adrenal gland is what we call at Warner Chiropractic. That's the stress gland. In other words, when you are under stress, this adrenal gland starts working, and that can affect the body if it's overstressed. But then after a while, if it's continually stressed, then it starts losing its function, and it goes through different changes till eventually that gland is just so tired it can't keep up with the stresses that are in the body, and then your body goes into other areas of stress that you finally start to really notice.
It's okay to have occasional bursts of adrenaline. Maybe you're running from a danger or something like that, and we were designed that way. But as you said, if you just keep putting a constant overtaxing on that adrenal gland, eventually its function is going to be impaired.
I think just what you said adrenaline, and then you said adrenal gland. That's where the word adrenaline comes from. It's from the adrenal gland. And there are two parts of that gland. There's the medulla, and then there's the cortex. Well, the medulla is the part that makes adrenaline, like you said. So when someone is mad, wait till I get my hands on him. When you got that attitude,
you get a big spike.
That adrenaline is going. You're super strong. Your blood pressure goes up. All these things, and that's because that gland is putting out adrenaline, making adrenaline. Now you're Superman,
right?
For a while.
Yeah.
For a while. But if you keep stressing that gland, pretty soon, I'm just exhausted all the time, and that's because that gland is tired. And another thing to think about is, I said the other part of that gland is called the cortex. Now, the cortex of the adrenal gland is the part that makes cortisone. That's where the word cortisone comes from.
And, of course, that's used to, inject into certain places that are hurting in a person's body.
Yeah, absolutely. So If you think you're low on cortisone, would that affect the joints of your body?
Certainly would.
Yeah. So if you got arthritis, well, one of the reasons why there's a lot of arthritis in our country is because people are stressed out so much that cortex is not making the cortisone necessary. So we have joint pain, we've got sprains, strains, arthritis, and you go to the doctor and say, oh, my knee hurts, and the doctor says, well, you need some cortisone. You need a shot of cortisone. Well, if your body was making enough cortisone itself, maybe you wouldn't need the shot. So it affects the body. Your sexual hormones, menopausal women, when ladies get to a certain age and men get to a certain age, their sex glands don't make the hormones that they used to need at a younger age, and the adrenal gland is the chief gland that manufactures these hormones for men and women as they get older.
What are the causes for the adrenal gland being overtaxed?
Okay, we talked about the stresses as a big thing, the mental stress, the physical stress, the chemical stress, not eating properly. That can affect that adrenal gland. And when we check people for this, and people come with the 7 symptoms of stress that we mentioned last week, headaches, they can be caused from the adrenal gland. Fatigue, definitely. You start treating that adrenal gland with chiropractic adjustments and certain food supplements, and that adrenal gland starts working properly. Usually within 3 days, people start saying, man, I've got more energy. That's because we're feeding that gland, and they get more energy, but that gland has probably been run down for months to years, and it'll probably take 6 months, 8 months, whatever, for that gland to start building up again. So you try to lower the stress levels and then feed that gland so that it has all the nutrients that it has, and then your body can cope with that. Pain anywhere in the body, we mentioned that. That's a sign of adrenal gland. Digestive disturbances, sleep difficulties, irritability, allergies, and sinus. The allergies are affected by that adrenal gland.
And I think for some people who've had a lot of trouble finding the source of their allergies, that would be a great answer if they could get the adrenal gland healthy and find out the allergies are reduced.
That is very much so, Fred. And a lot of times when people are under a lot of stress, that's when the allergies start affecting them the most. Mm-hmm. When everything's going bad, then all of a sudden the allergies are starting up. The sinus problems are coming. I got the headaches, and now I got that. Now I've got fatigue. I'm tired all the time. I'm sick of being tired and tired of being sick. That's a symptom there. So when people stand up quickly and they get a little dizzy, adrenal gland involvement. If you go outside and the lights, the sunlight bothers your eyes a lot, that's adrenal gland involvement. So those are things that we try to cope with and treat with chiropractic, with proper diet supplementation. There's tests that we do to see if there's a problem with the adrenal gland, because if you can treat that adrenal gland and get that gland working again, you're going to be able to handle some of these other stresses.
Well, that's really important, and I think that we live in a country where we are overstressed, and at this time, with the economy being a problem, people are under financial stress, and it's really important to stay healthy.
Absolutely, and if you can lower one area of stress, then you'll be able to cope better with the other area of stress. So that's what we try to do. We try to find out what we can do to lower that total stress level, and our patients get well quicker.
You also mentioned last week that you have a questionnaire people can fill out so they can pinpoint where they may be having trouble.
Yes, we would be glad to send any listener of WFEN a stress survey. They can contact our office and say, I would like to have mailed to me a stress survey. There's no charge for this, and the person can just see if they're having problems with certain areas that are related to stress.
And I know you also have information on a variety of topics if people have a certain problem and they're wondering about it.
Yes, they could contact us and ask about the adrenal gland. We have a certain pamphlet that just talks about that kind of goes a little bit more in depth than what we spoke about today, but it would be something that would be very good. So they could have the stress survey, or I want the stress survey and the adrenal gland pamphlet.
All right, and I know they can contact you either online or by phone.
By phone at 815-398-8111, 815-398-8111, or www.warnerchiro.com.
Warner Chiropractic in Rockford on East State Street at 4855 East State Street, Manhattan Plaza. Dr. Jim, thanks for the information.
Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.
And that'll wrap it up for Health Matters Today.